Hey everybody, welcome to Shop Talks. I'm here with Allan Wade. Really happy that he has come all the way from Philadelphia and got away from his 87,000 subscribers to in real life be here, talk about growing your business with embroidery. I want to thank Impressions and Haynes for sponsoring this. And Allan, in the spirit of the Shop Talks, will be sharing, not selling. And we're going to talk a little bit about embroidery.
How you guys doing? Allan Wade, as he mentioned, 87,000 subscribers on YouTube, and being here with.
What are the common things that people want to know that are thinking about getting into embroidery? I mean, I know that you're like the translator, right?
Yeah.
From like the crappy material the embroidery machine people give you, and the people that want to know, you kind of break it down. So how do you start with breaking it down for people that are interested in embroidery?
So the first question I always get from everybody is, what type of embroidery machine should I get? What should I start out with? And I started off my channel with a Brother SE600. That's one single needle machine. And I think it's really important to start off like that because you get the basis of exactly how to work your machine and the concept of embroidery with the single needle machine. And I kind of like try to teach people the very basics of how the machine operates, how to thread it, the reason why you want to release the tension lever while you're threading your machine, right? And to try different things. And so that's one of the most common questions I get. What machine should I buy? Should I start off with a multi-needle, or should I start off with a single needle? And I always mention the Brother SE600 because it's a very inexpensive entry-level machine to start off with.
So what range are we talking about for that?
We're talking about 300, between 300, 400. Sometimes it's 600. Actually, this summer during the pandemic, it went all the way up to $600. I like to think part of that was because of me, because I made so many videos. I have over 100 videos on the Brother SE600 on my YouTube channel, all the way from when I unboxed it, all the way to when I graduated up to a multi-needle. And I remember starting off, I never thought in a million years that I would even be able to afford a multi-needle machine. But you work your way up, and next thing you know, things happen, and the rest is history.
So you do a lot of work in advising people that really start with almost nothing. So what kind of things do you have them think about in terms of decorating and getting customers, that kind of thing?
So when it comes to embroidery, you want to make sure you don't get in over your head. So one of the key things is to try to figure out what exactly you want to specialize in. And I always tell people to try to find your customer base before you make that huge investment into multi-needle, right? So it's almost like try to find out who you're going to sell to before you make that investment. Because the last thing you want to do is end up spending a whole ton of money or end up with a huge payment and you have no way of getting money back from your investment, right? So I offer people a lot of different ideas on my channel, and I also ask my subscribers in the comment section to give some more ideas to the community so that people have a better idea of people that they can reach out to in their community, different ideas like, a daycare or a club from a school or sports teams or different small businesses that would appreciate having customized merchandise. Also, themselves. The most important thing, I think, that people don't realize is if you invest in a machine like this, in the long run, it's gonna pay for itself because you're gonna go into stores and shop differently. Like right now, if I walk into a store, swear to God, if I walk into a store, that shirt or that item that I'm looking at better be top tier, the best design, because everything I see, I'm like, I can make that. I can make that. I'm a hard seller in the store now. Like before, I was a shopaholic. I'm buying everything. Certain things I buy, but I absolutely have to not be able to make it in order for me to purchase it, to spend my money on. When I know I can make it, I can digitize that. I can make that. So.
Allan, my kids won't let me go in stores with them because they'll be like, look at that design, it's really cool. I was like, no, that damn thing is crooked. Like,
right.
like it should be 3 inches from the collar and it's 4. It's like, that's all I can see. Yeah. I can't see how interesting the design is, so I'm not even allowed. So I hear what you're saying.
Exactly.
So you know, you identify maybe your target audience. What kind of ways can people decorate shirts successfully without having to spend a ton of money? Because not everybody starts, you know, with a silver spoon.
Well, you know,
Because you have transfer machines too, right?
I have. I started with, of course, everybody a vinyl cutter, and starting off with a vinyl cutter is one of the easiest, simplest ways you can get into the garment decorating industry. But right now, what's really, really hot is DTF, right? They're transfers that you can purchase from different companies, and you don't even need to own the actual physical machine that makes the DTF. That's the most easiest way you can get in. Only thing you need to do is purchase a heat press, right? And then you come up with a design. If you can't come up with your own design, you can use services like Fiverr, and you can talk to a professional graphic designer that works on a person-to-person basis, and you come up with a design. They give you a design in different formats. You get a company like Supercolor, right, or any of the other garment decorating people that own the machines on Instagram or YouTube. There's tons of them, right? Give somebody your money, you know, and you get your design backs and transfers, and you start your garment decorating business with just a heat press. Just a heat press. That's the easiest way you can get in. But if you want to customize your own merch and you want to get into the mechanics of operating a machine, Silhouette Cameo is the easy way to enter. Graph Tech, if you want to get more technical, and you know, once you build your way up to some volume, and then you graduate, and before you know it, you'll have machines that you never thought that you could afford, like a DTG machine, right? So
it seems, let's get to the YouTube thing a little bit. So it seems like with your YouTube channel, you're kind of catching a wave here, correct me if I'm wrong, where people are a little more cooperative than they once were. You know, I used to come to these shows and people were like, hold that knowledge tight to their vest. Seems like not only are you sharing knowledge, but that your followers in the comments and stuff are more willing to share the information. Like, it seems like there's enough work for everybody.
So the thing with social media is, social media will lead you in the right direction as you're creating your content. Like, your subscribers and your fan base and your audience will suggest things to you, and you'll think to yourself like, wow, that's a good idea, and then you'll implement it in your business, and then you'll start growing. And then some people that are just entertained by channels like myself showing them how to use the equipment, and they'll just watch for that reason, but then they'll want to support you and buy your merchandise because they see your growth, they see your story. Like, I post almost everything. I've posted the point where I lost my job. I posted when I bought my first Cameo, when I bought my first, unboxed the Brother SC600, when I said, guys, sometime this year, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I think we're gonna get a multi-needle machine. I don't know where the money's gonna come from. And it happened, right? And it happened because I like to think a large part of it was my audience, them suggesting things to me, them supporting me. So social media is huge when it comes to any business. You guys know that's obvious. Like, advertising has been going on forever. It just works. And you can do your own advertisements with your social media platform.
So you not only have people that are maybe, what I'll say, on their journey behind you, but you got people, I guess, ahead of you as well that are part of watching it and helping you out.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother aspect of it. You get a lot of inspiration from other creators and other social media influencers, and you pay it forward by putting the information out there so that somebody else can learn after you. And you come out to events like this so you can see the latest, greatest technology that's out there. You know, so there's so many important things that you know transpire when you participate on your social media platforms.
So let's get back to the embroidery a little bit. So people need special talents to do embroidery? Like, you have to grow up sewing or anything like that?
No, absolutely not. I always tell my audience, I'm like, one of my favorite lines is, if I can do it, you can do it. I mean, like, look, a couple years ago, I was making videos on just unboxing it and showing you how to thread it. And the key thing when you're starting your social media platform, if that's something that you want to do, is to, like, when you find something that you're having problems with, right? You know that somebody else is having that problem. So why not help? Make a video about it. Show somebody, you know, because there's a bunch of people that are buying these equipments and these machines, and they're gonna have that issue. That's where I found success. I found success in helping people figuring out how they can solve these issues because they're gonna run into the issue. I know it, like when I bought my Cameo, some of these companies, not to knock the companies, but they don't have very good instructions. And I'm happy they don't have very good instructions because that creates a lane for us. Like we bridge the gap between the company and the end users, right? And I'm really good at conveying and showing people, okay, this is how you do it, and I get a nice lens and I zoom in, I show it intricately, so that by the time you're ready to purchase your machine, you're confident already, because I made 10 videos. You've watched 50 videos on me doing it repetitively, back to back to back, different designs, so you're like, oh, I know how to do this, right out of the box. So anybody can get into it. I'd say the hardest part is maybe if you're not that much of a graphic designer, then you might want to, hire a graphic designer that you can, if you have an idea in your head, you can talk to somebody and they can turn that idea into an actual thing, right? A file that you can give to, and you can create into something that you want to put on garments, yeah.
So you really started with the embroidery, but I know also you coach people basically on the business aspects as well, right? What kind of things do people need to know usually?
I actually started with a silhouette cameo. And this is funny. This whole journey was an accident. This whole journey was an accident. I swear to, this is what happened. I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm sorry, I'm telling a real short story.
Go ahead.
So, my family's from the Caribbean, a small island in the Caribbean called Dominica. And my uncles, they sail boats, like big boats to carry the cargo. So my mom, one day, she said, hey, do you think you can go to find a shirt making company that makes shirts so your uncle can have shirts for the crew? And I said, yeah, I can handle that, right? So I'm thinking to myself, and this was before I even started making videos on garment decorating. I saw videos from Stan Banks, and I said, there's this machine called the Silhouette Cameo, Mom. Why don't we, instead of giving this company $300 or so, why don't we go half and buy this machine? She said, that's a great idea. But I already went to school for digital film and video production. That's what my degree is in. So I already knew light graphic editing, Illustrator, Photoshop, and things like that. So we went half on the machine. I got it, did the unboxing video, and that's when I started, teaching myself how to use the machine by watching other YouTubers, right? And answer, every time I ran into a problem, I would make a video on it. Then I'd get questions. Then I'd make a video to answer that question. Then I'd get another question. Then I started making my own stuff. And then I made videos. And then I started showing people how to use the waste. Like, because when you're cutting vinyl, you get a lot of waste. I made a video called Save Your Scraps and showed people how to make whole shirts out of scraps, right? So you're, being more productive with everything. So this whole journey was an accident, and it's a blessing in disguise. I love it. It's especially being an artist, it like gives you a sense of fulfillment when you're able to have a concept in your head and you're able to bring that concept to life and actually make a tangible thing that people can hold and see in their hands. It's a magical experience. Not to sound corny or cheesy or anything, but it really is a magical and enjoyable and fulfilling experience.
I mean, I know it's an overused expression, but you definitely keep it real. I think, with the Ink Kitchen, first show we were here, we wore these shirts that said know it all. It was a joke, because nobody knows it all, right?
Exactly, constantly learning.
And then our favorite posts are the Misprint Mondays. We've shared our errors. I think that you were onto something there, whereas instead of you supplying all the answers, you were kind of supplying the questions, and also showing people that it's not an easy path.
A lot of my audience always say, I get this comment a lot in videos, thank you for showing all your mistakes. I get some comments that says, hey, cut to the chase, but for the most part, people appreciate seeing the mistakes, seeing when I messed up, and seeing what I did to fix that error. Because guess what? Like I said before, you're gonna run into the mistakes, you're gonna run into errors, and that's part of business, and that's part of life. You're gonna have obstacles. And those people that are successful are the people that can work through the obstacles, right? You can grow, every business has a hurdle that you have to jump over. And the people that are successful are the people that don't give up, are the people that figure out how to solve the issues. So I make a video showing other people how they can solve those issues before they run into those issues, so they have a jump start in their business.
So I know really everybody's obstacles are probably different, and part of what you do is just encourage people to overcome them and to think through it. But what are some of the common obstacles to getting an embroidery business off the ground?
Well, one thing that I'm sure everybody can relate to is finances, right? Finances. But there are all different, so many different ways that you can get the financing to purchase machines like that. Like starting off small, like I said, with a Brother SE600 or other small machines. And I have a video where I show people how they can start off making money by just like customizing cuffs, dress shirt cuffs. That's a little small. You can convert that machine into a sewing machine. All businesses, like not all businesses, but some businesses, you need to do your hem and your dress pants and stuff like that. I have a video showing how to do that, and like just giving people different ideas on how they can work their way up to be able to afford those more expensive machines. Different companies have financing and things like that, and you just want to make sure when you're jumping into something that you can sustain it, like you can have the means to pay for it, because you don't want to end up in debt, because that's really, really important. But I always like to make the analogy that, or give the example that if you start creating clothes for yourself, you're not shopping anymore. So in essence, you're kind of saving it and paying it off in a way, because like, I can't remember the last time when I actually bought a fully decorated shirt. I buy blanks. Blanks are like $3 on $5 at the high end, right? So a high quality blank of $5 versus a high quality shirt from a store, we're talking about $100, right? This shirt, I don't know, $25, $30 in the store. All I paid for was ink and a $3 blank, right? And then your friends see it. Hey, that's a nice shirt. Where'd you get it from? Oh, I made it. You want one? $20. Fine. And that's the sentence. Wear your merch. Advertise for yourself. If you have a garment decorating business, or if you're trying to start off your garment decorating business and you're not advertising for yourself, you're shooting yourself in the foot. I talked about how good, social media is of promoting, right? So guess what's the best promotion? You're the best promotion. If you're not wearing your merchandise, why should anybody else?
You know what? Let's open it up to questions. What do you say? All right. Who's got a question for Allan? No question too stupid.
I talk too much. I babble on and answer everybody's question for you.
So the question is, besides the financing issue, what are some of the other issues that you should be aware of before you jump into embroidery?
The large learning curve that there is in embroidering. There's a large learning curve, and that has to do with the functionality of the machines and tension issues and things like that. That's why I try to make intricate videos to show people how to understand tension and what the thread is doing and what's causing like thread breaks and things like that. I make really intricate videos, and I kind of like take the machine away. I have one video where I take the machine away and I just have a stranded thread, and I get people to understand tension. If you have a thread break, that's because something is pulling on something too much. So you have to adjust the knob to get that thing to pull less. And I try to break it down like that, so to get people to understand easier, right? And of course, you touched on the financing thing, but there's many different options for financing. Like there's a trick. Well, it's not a trick, but most people like myself don't know it. But if you legitimize your business and you have an LLC or a legit business, and you get your business EIN number and you start building your business credit, if your credit is not that good, you can use your business credit to purchase your machine once you build up a little small business amount of business credit, and it's not under your personal credit anymore. That's not how I did mine, but now that I'm building my business credit, I'm buying everything in my business credit now and leaving my personal credit for whatever if I ever decide to use it. So.
Two questions.
I'd say
All right,
both.
let's go with that first question. So the question is, if you're getting into embroidery, is it better to figure out how to digitize it yourself, especially if you know Illustrator or something like that, or should you outsource the digitizing?
I think both. I think in any business, whatever thing that is involved with that business, you should understand it. So you should get embroidery, digitizing software, and you should have a basic understanding, and you should, try to understand it so that you know when you hire a digitizer if they're doing a good job. If you've never touched digitizing software and you never understand that you have to, increase the density to get it to look more full, or adjust the pull compensation so the threads aren't so tight, then you wouldn't know. You just say, hey, digitizer, this design is doing something weird, and you don't know how to explain it to them. You don't know, thread counts, and you don't know that, like, hey, can you add a hole here so it's not 3 layers of thread embroidering on top of each other? You wouldn't know that because you don't have the software. So it's good to understand. You don't have to digitize yourself, but get a basic understanding of the software can help your business out a lot. And guess what? If you don't mind digitizing, that's a whole nother business right there. You can just do digitizing on the side. I do that, and I get clients. I probably shouldn't have said this. I get clients and and I outsource it. I don't do the digitizing anymore because it's too time consuming. I do some of them, some easy designs, boom, 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 get it done in 5 minutes, and but yeah, that's a whole business within itself. So.
And you had a second question? And so the question is it better to just have like a specialty, like you just do hats or something like that?
I would think starting off that it's probably always better to start off with one thing and get a basic understanding of one thing than to spread out and try to do everything right off the bat. So if that's what, when I bought my multi-needle machine, I only wanted to do hats. And every company told me that, like, if you could do hats, you can do anything, because obviously it's a hat hoop and it's curved and you have to hoop it a certain way. There's many different variables that can go wrong. But yeah, it's always good to niche down and kind of concentrate on one thing before you spread yourself thin and try to do everything like I do. I try to do everything, but it's always good to start off and focus with one thing and perfect that one thing before you move on to something else.
Okay, other questions? I actually have one about outsourcing digitizing. What about outsourcing embroidery work?
Outsourcing embroidery?
Like, in other words, maybe you can do something, but somebody has like a 1,000-piece order. You're going to do that at home with your little machine. So what about that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's a business that you don't want to turn down, right? If you have a single needle, one head machine, and you get somebody that wants like 1,000 pieces, I can't handle 1,000 pieces. So you definitely want to, when you start growing your business, kind of get in touch with a shop or something like that so you can outsource for those larger orders that might take you weeks, making what you enjoy not so enjoyable because you're, definitely want to try to find some. That's the only way to scale anyway. So unless you want to buy more heads and buy more machines, eventually you're going to have to hire people, but I'm not to that point yet. I do get a lot of business, but I try to make things that are popular in my e-store in advance, so it's there. Like, you don't typically go into a clothing store and they make it there on the spot, right? So I always tell people in their shops, right, in their home-based business, just when you get your blanks, just make the merch. Make what's popular. Make what you know that people are going to buy. Because what happens is you'll order a bunch of blanks and the blanks will just end up sitting there. You can't sell what you don't have. So you're not motivated to sell what you don't have or what you didn't make. Because guess what? In the back of your mind, there's a whole lot of time that goes into making this specific thing. So you're thinking about, I don't feel like doing this. The couch always wins, right? The TV and the couch and a bag of chips and the food, right? So you're like, just get your blanks, make your stuff. That way it's there. Only thing, now you're motivated. You're like, okay, I got 50 hats here. I'm going to get online. I'm going to try to sell these 50 hats because you got that, it's done. The work is done. Only thing you got to do is package it up and make the label, right? So you can't sell what you don't have. So
actually, so we have a bigger shop, and I think a lot of people that are starting are afraid to come to us, like we're going to steal their work or stuff. But there are plenty of legitimate shops that will take the contract work. They'll take that 500 hats, and they're not going to steal a customer, right? I mean, if you find a reputable partner, right?
A lot of a lot of printing shops that I find, like I work with a guy, and I tried to do screen printing. Guys, screen printers are to be respected at all times.
Yeah, there you go.
Screen printers are to be respected at all times. The money, the skill that goes into that specific screen printer. So, yeah, there. Some people generally enjoy.
How much did I pay you to say that?
I just been to a shop and I see the amount of work and the equipment and how much it costs and things. I'm like, yeah, no, yeah, I'll pass. It's just
But it
so
doesn't
much
mean you can't
involved.
take the work in, right? I mean,
Exactly. You can definitely take the work. I work with a guy in New Jersey, and maybe you know what I mean? Maybe we might work so. But yeah, I offer screen printing services, and I don't do screen printing. I don't know how to do screen printing. I tried to burn a screen. I bought a what was it? It had 2 platens on it. Didn't work out. I could never burn a screen. I couldn't figure it out. And breaking down the files, no, there's a lot involved. So it's not something I would find enjoyable, but some screen printers generally enjoy what they do. It's like an art form to them, so they just want to do that.
it's just an art form. It's not a good business. No, it is. Other questions? All right, so the question is, thread tension was mentioned. There's some equipment that has auto tensioning. Is that a good way to go? Because that's an expensive option.
Well, it depends. I like to, yes and no. It's good to understand how to adjust your tension on your own. You need to understand it before you can appreciate it, right? So if you just go ahead and buy that auto tensioner machine, right? And that's the only thing you've ever worked with, then you can't have those conversations to other people that are getting in about tension because you don't understand tension. And you can't, like myself, bargain shop and go on a used website and buy a machine for half the price because it doesn't have an auto tensioner system. So it's always good to understand the intricacies of what you're doing before you take that leap and buy something that cuts your work time in half or the different variables that can happen in half. So it's yes and no. It's how much discretionary income do you have? What do you want to start off? What do you want to get into? I like to understand the gear because this stuff is expensive. It's expensive. So you want to understand what to do if something goes wrong, right? You want to understand, you want to be able to call the company and say, hey, I think the auto tension system is off. You wouldn't know that, right? If you just bought the machine. So I would say
I was going to
yes
add
and
that,
no.
yeah. Screen printing is a little like that. I started as hand printing with, the most basic stuff in my basement.
Too many variables.
And we don't do any
registration marks. I don't even understand it.
So we don't do any hand printing anymore, but I am very glad that I started doing that. So when we run our automatic equipment, I have more of a gut level understanding of it. And tension, besides what Allan said, we have lots of embroidery heads at our place, and that is the single most thing you have to understand is thread tension. So I think it's kind of like the answer to digitizing. If you understand thread tension, you're going to be better able to deal with even your auto tension machine, I would say. Other questions?
They're not digitizing
So
softwares.
the question is, what about Corel and Illustrator, and what's the best one to get into related to digitizing?
Okay, so the best. I'm affiliated with a company, but it's okay. I started off with Brother PE Design, and I use Chroma Hatch from Racoma, and I also use Chroma Lux from Racoma, and I also use Wilcom. So I know how to use 3 different digitizing softwares. And if you've worked, are familiar with the user interface of like an Illustrator or a Photoshop, you can kind of get into it and understand it a little bit, watch some tutorials, and you'll get good at, pressing the buttons and know what does what. But I can't necessarily tell you what the best one is because it depends on what you're trying to do. Because each one, they all generally have the same tools, but each of them work differently. It's hard to kind of break it down. Like, Wilcombe Hatch, it seems like I could just create a design and just take it straight to my machine, right? Brother PE Design, it's more PC friendly to me. If you have a Mac, unless you get a emulator, then you're gonna Chroma Lux is gonna be good for you, or Chroma Inspire is gonna be good for you because not all the digitizing softwares work on Macs. So there's many different variables, and I wouldn't say one is necessarily better than the other. I would more so say get a trial version of all of them and try them out.
Yeah, we use
and
Pulse.
See what you like.
We use Pulse.
Chroma Plus?
Yeah, so.
Right.
But you may also just do artwork and then have someone else digitize for you.
Right.
So I'd say that's the most common these days. A lot of people do not know how to do digitizing. They do even tons of embroidery. They might have one person, even in a shop with hundreds of heads.
And don't auto-digitize. Well, you can try, but
yeah,
compare it to a real digitized file manually and you'll see.
And so there's also hybrids of subbing it out. Everything from where you just send it overseas, and then there's places where you're dealing with someone in the United States, but they have people working both places. And I think one of the main things is you want to have a good rapport with the company, no matter who you work with. And same thing if you're going to buy digitizing software, you're going to need the support and training. And so you want to look down that road as well as just what's going to happen right when you get it out of the box.
That's another good point when the gentleman had asked, should you go into digitizing? I think you should, because if your digitizer sends you a file, say that you're on a timeline and you have to get this done by a certain time, and you have the software, you can just, if he provides you with all the files, you can just open it up and make that adjustment yourself, because it might be a minor adjustment that, increase the density, decrease the density, or, just move a dot to the side so it doesn't, you know what I mean? There's different little small tricks that you can do really, really fast by yourself to the point where you don't need to, get on the phone or send an email and wait a day or two, or, you know what I mean? So there's a ton of value in having your own digitizing software, especially the one that your digitizer that you work with is using. And it's another way to just save your most valuable asset, which is your time. You can scale up and you can take in more work if you just outsource your digitizing. And like I said, I started off with, when I did videos on the SE600, people started contacting me and emailing me, asking me to digitize their files. And I'm like, man, this is taking time. So I was making videos showing the files, because I test stitch the designs before I give them to the clients to make sure they'll embroider nicely. And I started getting more and more work. And then the digitizer started contacting me, hey, I digitized files. And I'm like, I say, I digitized files too, I digitized files. Then I'm like, the business brain clicked in and I'm like, hey, well, how much do you charge? And I'm like, okay, well, I can take this and give you that. Okay, well, so it's a way that you can gain back some of that most precious time. Once our time is up, that's it. That's what we all have in common, the time. So you definitely want to, if you want to scale up, you got to start getting other people involved. And we're here to support each other, right? When you're outsourcing your digitizing, you're not only growing your business, but you're keeping another business in business. So it's always good to work with other people. And once your business starts to grow, start outsourcing, right? You're helping the community and you're helping yourself. So it's like a win-win.
Other questions? All right, so the question is about going from a single to multi, and what's the learning curve?
So in he said, starting off with PE, was there a learning curve in digitizing for a single needle versus a multi-needle? Okay, started switching from a single needle to a multi-needle. The biggest learning curve is not being intimidated by that big, monstrous looking machine, right? So once you learn how to, everybody's main thing is like, wow, how do you thread this thing? Where do I even start? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so once you watch a few videos and you understand how to thread it, that's half the battle right there. And the thing is just keep on trying, right? And just keep on getting training. And then one day, it's not going to be intimidating anymore. Like, I can look at my MT1501 and it's not complicated, but when you first get in the mail, you're like, oh my gosh, Jesus. It's got 15 heads, I gotta thread all this, and I gotta do this, and what if something happens? What if I get a thread break? What do I do? How do I change the bobbin? But all this stuff is like, stuff as you do, you'll get comfortable with it. It's just like anything else. So there's a huge learning curve, but it's not, if I can do it, you can do it.
That's the theme here, right?
That's it. If I can do it, you can do it. And I got videos showing you how to do it already, so.
Other questions? All right, well, I want to thank you all for, go ahead.
Oh, A-Dubb Productions. A-Dubb Productions on YouTube, A-Dubb Productions on Facebook, A-Dubb Productions on Instagram, A-D-U-B-B Productions.
And unlike the sign I got wrong, it's A-L-L-A-N, yes. Allan Wade. All right.
It's okay, everybody makes that mistake.
One more question here. All right, so the question is, in screen printing they've found, game-changing time savers and so forth. In embroidery, besides the software and the machine, is there other things that can really save you time or money?
Well, save you time and money.
Is that fair? Is that what you want?
Well, I was gonna say the individual, because when I got into embroidery, there was a lot of controversy about the specific machine that I got, and a lot of people online just said it didn't work. It's not a good machine to buy, right? It just doesn't, something's wrong with the machine. But then I went into Facebook groups and stuff like that, and I saw a lot of intricate, nice designs being done with this machine in particular, and I'm like, well, if they're doing it, why are these other people having problems? So I decided to get that machine because I did some research and I liked the company and what they were doing and what they offered. So when I got it to work, my main thing that I would say in all my videos, all my beginner videos, was like, mine works, why doesn't yours work? Oh my gosh, and I got so much heat in the comment section, and I loved it. If I can do it, you can do it, but mine works, why doesn't yours? Look, I just talked to you for 15 minutes and my machine was running in the background the whole time. Mine works, why doesn't yours? One of the biggest, I know you're looking for a specific thing in embroidery, but the biggest variable is the person. How dedicated you are to it. How much do you want to do it, right?
Which if you did screen printing, you'll be able to figure it out. The other way around, I see embroiderers that try to do screen printing. That doesn't work out very well. I see a lot of people end up selling their equipment. But, I was a screen printer. We are heavily into embroidery, and it's more lucrative, actually. Yeah. And you can figure it out.
Sometimes one of the best things you can do when you get frustrated is just walk away and come back. Walk away. Sometimes when you walk away and come back, you actually have a moment while you're washing dishes or watching TV, and you'll get a thought, and then you'll run over. But when you're struggling through it, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you need to just walk away and just come back. And that's like the biggest thing. Like, the biggest thing is the person, you know what I mean? Like,
I'll mention a few specific items, actually. One, or connections. One is to get a good digitizer that you're connected with. Ask around, find somebody that really, does a good job, that's easy to work with.
Get some sample files.
Yes, some sample files would be good. And that you can really have a connection, that you're not just sending the file to you don't know who. Because there's a lot of overseas places, they'll give you a top person, and then they'll do good work, and then they'll give it to a junior person, and the quality goes down, so you have to stay on them.
But to add to that, though, it's important to understand digitizing, because if you don't, you won't know what a good file is.
Yes.
When it's embroidering out, you won't know that, you just put a whole bunch of thread on top of thread on top of thread. That's gonna cause needle breaks, thread breaks, and I'm using more thread, and it's just gonna be a mess. And, a bird nesting underneath, you wouldn't understand that. So it's important to try to understand the basics.
And then we didn't talk about it, but besides thread tension, bobbin tension is really important. an item that was, as we got bigger, wouldn't be the first thing, but magnetic hoops are a great tool for when you're trying to do odd locations and so forth. If you're just starting out in embroidery, you definitely want a partner that can handle your work and won't steal it. And you know, there's a lot of really good embroiderers out there, and you know, you don't want to turn down those big jobs. That's how you're going to grow, but you need a partner for that. And I really advise that you just be honest. You got a small thing, and even if you want it to be big, they'll still take your work as long as you're honest about it and don't jerk them around. And you need a good supply house so that you can get your materials, so you can get your thread. Get it fast. And then you need to learn about backing also. We didn't touch on that because that's a whole, we could talk an hour about that.
Backing when doing flats
and backings,
you know, softer materials, backing is important.
Yeah, especially with all the performance fabrics and so forth. So there's a whole lot more we could go into, but you know, we didn't have time.
Toppings, it's a bunch.
Yeah. So anyway, how about a hand for Allan Wade? You can hang around for a few minutes if people have more questions. All right. Check out his YouTube channel, which is A-Dubb Productions, and there's a lot of like really incredible.
Subscribe. Pull out your phone. Oh, one key thing I want to tell you guys that that thing that you were talking about, maybe pricing, right? Time, right? So the amount of stitches divided by the stitches per minute equals about how long that design is going to take to embroider out. The total stitches of the design divided by the speed that you're running your machine at, stitches per minute, equals how long it's going to take for that design to embroider out. So that's one of the things that you want to consider when making your price. I know we didn't touch on pricing, so that's important. So you want to take your time into consideration too.
All right, and then I want to thank our sponsor, Hanes and Impressions, and check out inkitchen.com, which is our site. All right, thanks, Allan.
No problem. Thank you.